The judge who signed off on the sealed search warrant of Mar-a-Lago is now being reported to have links to Jeffrey Epstein, and boy, does this get interesting. So many questions. What does it all mean? I can already hear the mainstream media saying conspiracy theory alert, but there is something interesting here. This judge apparently was a lawyer who switched sides, started to aid Epstein, and many people questioned why he did it. But we can take a look at the actual stories going back to discuss what happened and why. Now, I can tell you about this judge, his links to Jeffrey Epstein, and that's about it. I don't know what else it means. I will say before we go forward, I don't believe in grandiose conspiracy theories. I really don't. I don't think there is an international cabal that controls everything. I think there are international cabals that control things, but that's not a conspiracy theory. That's like international organizations that work with each other on policy and often behind the scenes in ways that we would find to be amoral and unethical, which is to say conspiracies literally exist. So I'll put it this way. There likely are very powerful entities and interests that exist throughout the world that work together for some means, sometimes nefarious. I don't believe, it's what I'm trying to get to. I don't think that there is one cabal controlling the world or anything like that. I don't think anyone's in control. I really don't. You know, I wonder why it is a show like mine can exist. I wonder why it is that other prominent individuals can call out stories like this. And it's because there's a battle for control. Powerful elites are fighting for power all day, every day. But that's about it. To varying degrees, there is a conflict between special interests and powerful interests trying to gain control of things. And that is to say, these grandiose conspiracy theories, I don't believe in them. I do think, however, something needs to be investigated. I do think we know about the likes of Jeffrey Epstein and other world leaders who were palling around with him, and what may have been a large blackmail operation being busted. We don't know. We don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think there is something nefarious here with the Epstein stuff. I think it's fairly obvious considering the revelations over the past several years and plus decade or so longer, things Alex Jones had been calling out. I'm just trying to say I don't think they're as powerful as you think they are. But I think something is here. Now, while all this is going on, we do have Donald Trump's response to the FBI raid signaling what appears to be a run in 2024. He says the best is yet to come, talking about this country being in danger and dissolving, or we'll get the exact terminology from his video. But we have hordes of Trump supporters, they say, coming out to Mar-a-Lago to support him. We have even Andrew Cuomo calling out the raid, and George Conway, of all people, saying they've crossed the Rubicon. Yo, dark days indeed, Donald Trump. As he said, dark days for our country. We have another story about Mark Milley, Joint Chiefs of Staff under Trump. Apparently, he wrote up a resignation letter and then never submitted it. The reason I think this is relevant to this segment is that we can see at the highest levels of government, the culture war has fractured this country, and something insane and unthinkable is currently happening. How many of you had Epstein-linked judge approves raid on Trump's house on your 2022 bingo cards? This one's getting interesting. Let's read the news, but before we do, head over to timcast.com and become a member to support our work, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast. Last night, we had Larry Elder talking about the life sentence of those convicted of killing Ahmaud Arbery. Among other conversations with Larry Elder, I think it's very interesting. We had him on Timcast IRL last night. You will also get access to our other shows like Tales from the Inverted World, and soon Cast Castle, which will be a longer weekly show, which will be behind the scenes as well as comedy, launching potentially today. We got to see. We want to make sure we do it right. But don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Let's read this story and dive into the Epstein-linked judge who signed off on the warrant against Trump. The New York Post reports, judge who approved FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago once linked to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm going to read this for you, and then we'll dive a little deeper and take a look at what the Miami Herald had to say. The Florida federal magistrate judge who signed off on a search warrant authorizing the FBI raid of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort left the local U.S. attorney's office more than a decade ago to represent employees of Jeffrey Epstein, who had received immunity in the long-running trafficking investigation of the financier. Sources tell the Post that Judge Bruce Reinhart approved the warrant that enabled federal agents to converge on the palatial South Florida estate on Monday in what Trump called an unannounced raid on my home. Reinhart was elevated to magistrate judge in March 2018 after 10 years in private practice. That November, the Miami Herald reported that he had represented several of Epstein's employees, including, by Reinhart's own admission to the outlet, Epstein's pilots. Okay. His scheduler, Sarah Kellen and Nadia Marcinkova, who Epstein once repeatedly described as his Yugoslavian sex slave. Kellen and Marcinkova were among Epstein's lieutenants who were granted immunity as part of a controversial 2007 deal with federal prosecutors that allowed Epstein to plead guilty to state charges rather than federal crimes. Epstein wound up serving just 13 months in county jail and was granted work release. According to the outlet, Reinhart resigned from the South Florida U.S. Attorney's Office effective on New Year's Day 2008 and went to work for Epstein's cohorts the following day. Epstein, who was found dead in August 2019 of an apparent suicide in the Manhattan Correctional Center while awaiting trial on federal trafficking charges, had hired a stable of high-powered lawyers, including former independent counsel Kenneth Starr. Reinhart was later named in a civil lawsuit that accused him of violating Justice Department policies by switching sides in the middle of the Epstein investigation, suggesting he had used inside information about the probe to build favor with the notorious defendant, the Herald reported in 2018. In a 2011 affidavit, Reinhart denied he had done anything improper and insisted that since he was not involved in the federal investigation of Epstein, he was not privy to inside information about the case. However, in a 2013 court filing, Reinhart's former colleagues contradicted him, saying that he had learned confidential, non-public information about the Epstein matter. Reinhart noted to the Herald in response that a complaint filed against him by a lawyer for Epstein's victims had been dismissed by the Justice Department. In his 12 years as a federal prosecutor, according to his official biography, Reinhart managed a docket that covered the full spectrum of federal crimes, including narcotics, violent crimes, public corruption, financial frauds, child, let's just say, horrifying imagery, and immigration. Reinhart is one of 3 federal magistrate judges in the West Palm Beach offices of the U.S. District Court of the Southern District Court of Florida, along with William Matthewman and Ryan McCabe. 2 recent warrant applications were assigned to Reinhart and entered into the court system on Monday, the Miami Herald reported. But those warrants and information about who they targeted remain sealed. Records show another warrant was issued by Reinhart on Friday, but its contents were also sealed. Trump confirmed media reports of a raid at his Florida resort on Monday evening, saying Mar-a-Lago was under siege, raided, and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. The agents were reportedly searching the seaside property for boxes of classified documents Trump allegedly brought to the ritzy resort after he left the White House in 2021, which would be a violation of federal record-keeping laws. The removal of classified documents to unauthorized locations is banned under federal law, although Trump had wide powers when he was president to declassify documents. I wonder. Now, conspiracies. Interesting. What could Trump have taken from classified documents that he wanted to retain? Let's play a game of hypotheticals. Could Donald Trump have seen classified documents related to Epstein and potential government involvement or malfeasance? Could Donald Trump have wanted to have leverage as he left the White House? Perhaps Donald Trump took these records knowing that they would try to come after him. I'm not saying I have any evidence to suggest this. I just think it's interesting that Trump would take boxes of classified documents but not declassify those documents. That sounds to me like leverage. Or let's calm down a little bit. It's entirely possible that Trump had a bunch of boxes and that one of his assistants or aides grabbed a bunch of boxes and Trump didn't really know or care what was going on. How deep down the rabbit hole do you want to look? And how far do you want to speculate? I don't know. But if Donald Trump did take these documents as leverage, then an Epstein-linked judge may want to figure out what leverage Donald Trump did take. Oh, crazy days indeed. It's all speculative. I don't know. Look, it could be really simple. This guy's just a judge. His past may be totally irrelevant. This could be Democrats wanting to go after Trump, or it could literally just be that Donald Trump has classified documents. They haven't charged him with a crime. Far be it from me to speculate definitively. I can tell you what may be interesting. Now, what's true? This judge, Epstein linked, but it's a little bit darker than just saying linked. Courtlistener.com. This is what's going around. August 5th, sealed magistrate matter. Search warrant issued on 8/5/2022. But we don't know. We don't know. Some people are suggesting this could be the warrant on Donald Trump. We don't know. Assigned to Bruce E. Reinhart. This is what the New York Post mentioned. Jumping over to Twitter. Comfortably Smug says, wait, what the? This Bruce Reinhart? Here's the story from the Miami Herald. On October 23rd, 2007, as federal prosecutors in South Florida were in the midst of tense negotiations to finalize a plea deal with accused trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, a senior prosecutor in the office was quietly laying out plans to leave the U.S. Attorney's Office after 11 years. On that date, as emails were flying between Epstein's lawyers and federal prosecutors, Bruce E. Reinhart, now a federal magistrate, opened a, I don't know what word that is, limited liability company. That's what it looks like. Limited liability company in Florida that established what would become his new criminal defense practice. The stated address, according to Florida State Corporate Records, 250 South Australian Avenue, Suite 1400. It was the same location and identical suite number as that of Epstein's lead attorney, Jack Goldberger. Cue the dun-dun-dun mystery. Interesting. They carry on. By the end of the year, Reinhart had resigned his post in the Southern District of Florida. Within days, on January 2nd, 2008, he was hired to represent several of Epstein's accused accomplices who would later, like Epstein, receive federal immunity for allegedly trafficking underage girls. Reinhart's defection was one of many highly unusual turns that the Epstein case took 12 years ago. Moves that could merit examination as the multimillionaire's controversial non-prosecution agreement is dissected in the wake of his arrest last week on trafficking charges. Ladies and gentlemen, wow. I don't know what to say, man. We don't know. And I'm always very careful when it comes to conspiracy theories. So I will stress again, as I said in the opening, the intro to the segment, I don't think any one group controls anything. I think conspiracies are real. How do you investigate and uncover them? I don't know. But any good journalist should be a conspiracy theorist. No, seriously. If you're going to try and dig up corporate or political malfeasance, you must assume there is something there. A conspiracy theory, as it were. It's funny because conspiracy theory becomes a catch-all for just out of the ordinary circumstance. You know what I mean? Like people say flat earth is a conspiracy theory. Sort of, but not really. It's just people believing weird things. I guess the conspiracy theory of it is that the government is secretly trying to convince people that the world is really round or something. Okay, the world is round, guys. Sorry. That's just, you can do the tests yourself. It's actually kind of funny. But anyway, I digress. When you have powerful, prominent interests, and you see like a prosecutor resign and then go work to defend Epstein, that just rings of a conspiracy. Like behind the scenes, an arrangement had been made. It doesn't mean that they rule the world or lizard people are everywhere. It just means that people with power use power, and that's the name of the game. So take it all with a grain of salt. But this is important because I really do wonder if Donald Trump did intentionally take boxes of classified documents. I wonder what those documents pertain to and why. Perhaps it's simple to look at this from the lens of the Hillary Clinton story and say Donald Trump just had records. And you can't do that. But maybe if we want to speculate, what if Trump was digging up leverage? What if this is them discovering what Trump has. I'd like to think there's some grand plot. I really would, but I just don't know. I know all these people were like, Donald Trump's going to be appointed on March 3rd or whatever. And they said all these crazy things that just never happened. The reality that life is much more boring is a reality that many people don't want to admit to. The reality is, it was probably some low-level dude who just carried boxes out and didn't know what they were. And Trump didn't know. That's it. The reality is much more boring than we'd like to admit. But what's happening with Donald Trump is, it's not so boring. And as much as we can say maybe life is more boring than we want to admit, when you look at the circumstances, a president's private residence being raided, we can certainly say we are outside of normalcy at this point, and normalcy bias should go out the window. We want to believe that the simple solution tends to be correct, but the president's home just got raided by the feds. So who knows? Now, many people are speaking up. Ron DeSantis said the raid of Mar-a-Lago is another escalation in the weaponization of federal agencies against the regime's political opponents, while people like Hunter Biden get treated with kid gloves. Now the regime is getting another 87,000 IRS agents to wield against its adversaries. Banana Republic. Yeah. And guess what else? Andrew Cuomo, of all people, has come out defending Donald Trump. Now that's surprising. Sort of. I'll put it this way. Andrew Cuomo was run across the coals, so I can kind of imagine him being like, wait, are we investigating politicians now? This is a bad thing. Daily Caller reports. Former Democratic New York Governor Andrew Cuomo called for the DOJ to quickly justify the FBI raid on former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence to avoid the perception that it was politically motivated and tainting investigations into January 6th, saying, DOJ must immediately explain the reason for its raid, and it must be more than a search for inconsequential archives, or it will be viewed as a political tactic and undermine any future credible investigations and legitimacy of January 6 investigations. Here's what I'd like to believe. I'd like to believe that Donald Trump is up against a bureaucratic state and the criminal elements associated with Epstein. Epstein, of course, was Epsteined. That's what they call it. And there are still accomplices and associates out there. I'd like to believe that Donald Trump is on this secret mission where he's like, we got to get rid of these cabals and these conspiracies and all that stuff. And this is part of that war. I just don't. I don't like, show me evidence, show me a reason to believe it. And it's like a maybe. Like maybe Donald Trump bumbled into it like he did with the Ukraine gate stuff. Trump's son Eric claimed Monday the raid was done over documents the former president took to Mar-a-Lago from the White House. Did he actually take them? Says, according to Eric, or is this what is being alleged? Trump releases campaign-style video after raid, as Laura says Dems terrified of 24 run. The president has responded. What we're seeing here signals something absolutely insane. National divorce, civil war, call it whatever you want. When news comes out that the judge who signed off on this had worked for Epstein in suspicious circumstances, people are going to start losing it. Because the Democrats crossed the Rubicon. Let me show you this. CNN, they crossed the Rubicon. Conway reacts to FBI search of Trump's home. George Conway is not a Trump supporter. He hates the man. And even he said they've crossed the Rubicon. That's where we are. Look, whatever you believe about the Epstein stuff, about a cabal or conspiracy or anything like that, there are people who believe it. It's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you think is true. There is truth. There is objective reality. But you look at BLM and Antifa on the far left, and they operate based solely on power. The fascistic tenet. There is no truth but power. That's what they believe. Many people on the right aren't going to care. They're going to say, I've seen enough. Trump has issued a statement. During an appearance on Fox News, Laura Trump claimed that Monday's hour-long FBI action was about weaponizing the justice system. They detest Donald Trump, not just the Democrat side, but the general establishment, because he's not one of them, because he doesn't play their game. I wonder. I want to speculate some more. It is widely believed, though I'm not sure how true, that Jeffrey Epstein had blackmail on many world leaders, which could explain his immunity and protection until Donald Trump, right? Right. Many people point out that Donald Trump was seen with Epstein and things like that, but Donald Trump also heavily disparaged Epstein. I don't know. It's entirely possible Trump is just another global elite, whatever, fine. But maybe, if we speculate, the reason they don't like Trump is because they don't have anything on him. And they didn't. And that's why they struggled to control him. They tried Russiagate, it didn't work. They tried Ukrainegate, it didn't work. They impeached him twice. It just didn't work. Now they're going for more. Could it be that with Epstein, he was running a blackmail operation and they had evidence? They had incriminating compromat on many world leaders, but not Trump. That's apparently the game that Epstein was playing. You bring these people out flying up. Oh, look, I got a private plane. We're going to fly to the island. You're going to love it. Then some beautiful young woman wants to party with you and you're like, yeah. And then you wink, wink, party. And the next day you're like, that was great. And they say, she's underage and here's the video. And you go, uh-oh. Sounds like it, right? Why was he trafficking in underage girls? Well, the dude clearly was a psychotic, disgusting monster, but probably using them for blackmail, if that is the case. I don't know for sure. But Trump said the U.S. has become a failing nation as he released a video saying the best is yet to come, signaling what may be a 2024 run. Now, I think everybody agrees Trump is going to be running. We'll see what they try to do to stop him. We'll see what all of this turns into. Trump supporters are here for him. Horde of angry Trump supporters descend on Mar-a-Lago in the hours following shock FBI raid. MAGA crowd questions agency's motives and blasts double standard in reporting on Hunter Biden and Nancy Pelosi. Here we are as a nation, my friends. When George Conway says they crossed the Rubicon, one thing I mentioned earlier in a segment is the point at which you flee a country when it's breaking down. I don't know what that means for you or anybody, but I can tell you, we look to the survivors of major crises and catastrophes. And maybe they did the right thing because they're alive. Maybe they didn't. Maybe the people who stood up against certain ideas, maybe if they remained, those things would not have happened. To put it this way, if you have 100 people in an area, 20 of them have become violent extremists and are advocating for extremism. 20 of them then flee. You have much less to hold back the tide. But maybe if those 20 stayed, you would just have 80% refusing. But I don't know. Maybe there's no answer. I take a look at what's happening now. We have the story from the post-millennial. Millie, triggered by Trump Black Lives Matter riot crackdown, wrote emotional resignation letter. The reason I highlight this in the context of these stories is it shows you, to the highest level of government, the culture war has permeated. And even Millie has Trump derangement syndrome and leftist derangement. He's in the cult. Bradley P. Moss on Twitter. This is the resignation text Millie wrote but never submitted to Trump. Wow. Interesting. The New Yorker reported it. He says, I regret to inform you that I intend to resign as your chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Thank you for the honor of appointing me as senior ranking officer. The events of the last couple of weeks have caused me to do deep soul searching, and I can no longer faithfully support and execute your orders as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It is my belief that you were doing great and irreparable harm to my country. I believe that you have made a concerted effort over time to politicize the United States military. I thought I could change that. I've come to the realization that I cannot, and I need to step aside and let someone else try to do that. Second, you're using the military to create fear in the minds of the people, and we are trying to protect the American people. I can't stand idly by and participate in that attack, verbally or otherwise, on the American people. The American people trust their military, and they trust us to protect them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and our military will do just that. We will not turn our back on the American people. Third, I swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States, and embodied within the Constitution is the idea that says that all men are created equal. All men and women are created equal, no matter who you are, whether you are white or black, Asian, Indian, no matter the color of your skin, no matter if you're gay, straight, or something in between. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, Jew, or choose not to believe. None of that matters. It doesn't matter what country you came from, what your last name is. What matters is we're Americans. We're all Americans. That under these colors of red, white, and blue, the colors that my parents fought for in World War II, means something around the world. It's obvious to me that you don't think of those colors the same way I do. It's obvious to me that you don't hold those values dear in the cause that I serve. I'm going to pause right there. I don't need to read the rest of this for you to get the point. He goes on to mention that the Greatest Generation and yada, 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 fighting Nazism and extremism. The Summer of Love. Black Lives Matter ransacked this country. It is estimated that between 26 and 32 or so people were killed in these riots. But Milley is in a cult. He's lost his mind. We can see it plain as day. For those of us that read the news and know the truth, we know this worldview he's espoused makes no sense. Donald Trump is America first. Donald Trump did not call on the military to shut down the riots. Many think he should have, but he didn't. Donald Trump was actually fairly moderate, according to Vox.com. This shows that at the highest levels, the cult has permeated. The fracturing is here. That was our chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Something dangerous and dark has come to this country, and it's reached a level, I don't know, it's reached the apex. Seeing that story about a judge and how he worked with Epstein, very, very interesting. At the same time, you can take a look where we are. Biden heavily coughs multiple times just 4 days after finally testing negative. President struggles through chip spill speech, and did he forget shaking hands with Schumer? Here's the video. Let me get to the video here. Chuck Schumer is speaking at the podium. I think here we have right here. He turns around, shakes Joe Biden's hand, shakes everyone else's hands, and then Joe Biden raises his hand again to shake Chuck Schumer's hand. Maybe forgetting that he already shook the hand of Chuck Schumer. For the fourth turning to be correct, there must be something happening this year or next, as I mentioned in a previous segment. I know. So I really do wonder. I'd like to believe that there is something more significant happening than what we see on the surface. You just need evidence, though. I'd like to believe that Donald Trump, during his presidency, garnered leverage against elements of the bureaucratic state and those who would seek to pull off things like this. And maybe this is a part of the political civil war that we've been seeing. We know they've been trying to go after Trump. They're getting his tax returns. They're getting documents from his company in New York, I believe in New York. Now they're raiding his home. They're not going to stop. Did Donald Trump think they would? It's interesting. I have to wonder if Donald Trump had the foresight to collect evidence against what these people do. However, removing confidential documents in any capacity would be a crime. But we shall see. It's reported that they recovered documents from Trump's house. Did Trump make copies? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he did. How would they know if he did or didn't? I don't know, man. But I think as much as we want to believe that Trump is some mastermind playing 4D chess, the reality is he's just a guy who can't be controlled. I don't think Trump is the smartest guy in the world. I think he's clever. I think he has a bit of strategy behind him, but I think he's naive and he makes mistakes. That's the reality. Even at, what is Trump, 76? There's a certain point, you're never going to be perfect. I don't know if the judge having anything to do with Epstein has anything to do with anything. It's a lot of people just pointing it out and saying something strange is happening here. Maybe. I mean, it was under Trump that we finally saw Epstein brought to justice. However, it was under Trump that Epstein ceased to be alive. We'll put it that way. Many people on the left argued that it was actually Bill Barr who had a hand in what happened to Epstein. Maybe. And Trump put him there. So could it be that Trump is actually the baddie and that was all part of his plan? And maybe, no, that makes no sense. Or could this be a political elite civil war? That Donald Trump is not an outlier. That he's not simply just an outsider with wealth and means. But maybe all of these individuals at the highest level were once a part of the global elite and they fractured for some reason. Perhaps it's the culture war. Maybe wokeness finally permeated the billionaire class causing a split, and now they're in conflict. I don't know. I don't know, my friends. I don't, but I'm curious your thoughts. You can comment below. We're moving into something well beyond dark days. Our president is sick and coughing, struggling to do his job, seemingly clueless about what's happening around him, forgetting to shake hands and shaking hands with air. What's he doing when he raises his hand like that all the time? I don't know. But then I have to wonder if Joe Biden is even the president. Newsweek, or I should say, he is the president. What I mean to say, if he's even the one guiding the office. Like, is he being puppeted by his advisors? Is he just doing what he's told to do? Because we know that he said that before. He said, they will get mad at me if I do X. Newsweek says, did Biden know about FBI search at Trump's Mar-a-Lago? What we know. Well, what we know is that many are saying Biden didn't know, that the White House only found out through social media because the DOJ is independent. But many on the right just don't believe that. I mean, why would they? Why would you believe they didn't know? Well, I got to be fair. The reason I think Biden didn't know is because Biden forgets everything, and there's a lot of things he doesn't know. And maybe this is just the DOJ, the bureaucratic state, operating as it does, seemingly independent of the rule of law. Ron Paul is a meme going around where he said it seems like the FBI was just made to spy on those who disapproved of their agenda. Yeah, maybe that's what the FBI is. Because I can tell you this, I've had conversations with lawyers, prosecutors, and agents, and for some reason they just don't really care about national crime unless it negatively impacts them and their political agenda. Yeah. I can't say too much, but I'll leave it at that. Many of you know we're dealing with security issues here at the Timcast Studios, but it makes you wonder. Next segment is coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.